So this is the next event that I've organised. This is Between the Lines. This is the launch of Greta Yorke's newest Tartan Witch book, Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade. So thank you very much for coming along visiting us. So first of all, I've got myself and the Reading Between the Lines blog on YouTube and on Facebook now. Formerly, but also is blogger for those been a brother, the Facebook blog. And we've got Greta Yorke, who is the author, children's author, who writes the Tartan books, and who also writes The Woo in the Wood, and there's also a pirate book as well in the series. So we're just going to start with a wee introduction. So Greta is a retired teacher. She's a member of the Ayr Writers Club. She's member of Literate, Ayrshire ladies who write fiction and poetry. They have published 3 anthologies and 1 children's anthology. She's won the Children Comp at SAW with The Witch Hitch, a story she wrote for her Primary 1 class. She tried to find a publisher, having no success there, and confident that this story was a valuable teaching resource, she found the illustrator a self-published book. So we're going to start with some questions. So Greta, how did you first get started writing, or what encouraged you to start writing?
Is that it?
So that seems to be working now a lot better. We just the crackling there. People were just saying. I'll let you start again.
You want to know right from the beginning again? Can't hear you.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. So Greta is a member of Ayr Writers Club. She's a member of Lit 8 Ayrshire ladies who write fiction and poetry, and they have published 3 anthologies and 1 children's anthology. She won the Children's Comp at SAW with a story she wrote for a Primary 1 class. She tried to find a publisher, having no success there, and confident that the story was a valuable teaching resource, she found an illustrator and self-published. How did you first start? How did you first get interested in writing? Hi, Greta. I don't know if you can hear me, but they're saying that they can't hear you. It seems like you're muted. Oh God. Hi guys, sorry for the problems we're having here. It seems that we're getting a lot of crackling today from StreamYard. I don't understand what's happened. We're just going to let the next 5 minutes see what happens, and then we might have to might have to find some other way of doing this. Really sorry about this, guys. If you can hold on with us. Yeah, you're back, but I can't hear you.
Right, is that better?
Yes, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So
Right, that's the earphone. That's the earphones out.
oh, is it the ear? Oh my God, guys, we think it might be the earphones. Are actually, they tell us to actually use earphones to stop the crackling, but actually it could be the earphones causing it. Right, I'm really sorry. So we're going to start again. So this is Greta, and I'm Lindsay. So Greta is a retired primary teacher. She's a member of Air Writers Club. She's a member of Literate Eight and 8 Ayrshire ladies who write fiction and poetry. They have published 3 anthologies and 1 children's anthology. She won the Children's Combat SAW with Witch Hitch, a story she wrote for her primary 1 class. She tried to find a publisher, having no success there, and confident that this story was a valuable teaching resource, she found an illustrator and published it herself. So, sorry about the problems that we've had. It's technology. So, how did you get started writing, Greta?
How did I get started writing? At first, I just wrote poetry and I enjoyed writing poetry, but here I'm going to name drop. My mother was friendly with Emma Thompson's mum, and we asked Emma what she thought I should do with my poetry and my writing, and she said, join a writers club. So I sourced out Air Writers Club and I joined, and that's where my writing developed. I got support and encouragement there, and that's how the writing developed.
So, why did you decide? Oh, obviously you were a teacher, but why did you decide to write children's fiction? Was there anything that pushed you towards it? I do rainbows, and they're obviously 5 to 7, so that would have been like P1, P2, P3. So, and I know that some of them are quite advanced with the reading. Some of them obviously like a picture book, and some of them are quite sort of advanced and like actually like older kind of books. Was there any reason that you decided to go for like a children's picture book with stories and short book?
Well, like you, I realised how the children engage with picture books, especially with illustrations, and there's so much interaction with picture books. But in truth, I won a knitted tartan, and I won a knitted witch in a school competition, and I asked if the person that knitted this could knit me 9 more so that I could use this as always as a teaching resource for counting within primary 1. And when the little witches all came back to me, they were all different colours. And then I thought, I have to write a story for these witches and give them, introduce number and colour and rhyme and repetition and all that within the book. So it was a teaching resource really to begin with.
Brilliant. So obviously you said you had to self-publish because you couldn't get a publisher interest, but after obviously you won the competitions, did you find it easier to get a publisher? And do you have an agent as well?
No, I don't have an agent at all, and I can't. You lose track. One loses track of the number of submissions you send out, and invariably don't have a response at all. So it was my eldest daughter, that kept saying to me, "If you have confidence in this, you just have to get it done." And when an opportunity arose to actually be able to self-publish, I went ahead with that. Now, I also have to say that my friend Maggie Bolton, who is the illustrator, she had been on an illustrator's course and had done nothing with that whatsoever. And I said to her, right, come on, you illustrate the book and we'll get it out there. And that's what happened. And we just self-published. We got a designer to help us. Once the words and the pictures were all together, we sent it to a designer who tweaked it and sorted it and sent it to the printer, and that's it, and that's the way we go. And I do all the marketing and sales myself.
Oh wow, amazing. So that must be a lot of hard work for you to do all that. So how did you get put forward for the SAW competition? Was that somebody that recommended that you go in for it, or did you just put yourself forward, or?
Well, as a member of our Writers Club, we always enter the competitions for the Scottish Association of Writers Conference, and I was a new member in our Writers when I did this, and I entered the competition and I won it, and oh dear me, I had no idea that I was going to have to get up and read my story in front of this whole great auditorium. It was quite nerve-wracking, I can tell you, but it was again through our Writers Club that I entered the SAW competition.
Brilliant. So were you quite surprised that Witch Hitch won the competition? And were you quite surprised by the success of it all, or were you quite like, oh right, okay, this is just like a follow-on kind of thing? Or was it a complete, oh my god, I can't believe this, after obviously like sending it into publishers to get like for them to take interest, suddenly you enter into a competition and then they decide we love this book?
Yes, I know. I mean, this is the public. It's I think it must be very, very difficult to be taken on these days by a reputed publisher, and I could see no way forward, as I say. But I had confidence. Maybe shouldn't say this, but I had confidence as a teacher, knowing that this was going to be a good resource because the children loved the story, and I thought I just have to do this. So I did.
So we're going to start with a wee reading from Witch Hitch. So Witch Hitch tells the story of some colourful, disorganised witches. They set out to find their missing things and meet a new friend along the way. This story includes number, colour and rhyme and repetition, and it has proved very popular with adults as well as children. So I'll let Greta read from Witch Hitch for you.
Right, here we have Witch Hitch. Red Witch lost her spell book. She searched and searched around. All day long in every place the book could not be found. But Red Witch was untidy, that's what everybody said. So off to ask a friend for help, one little witch sped. I can't find my spell book. Do you know what I should do? I don't think I can help you because I've lost something too. Blue Witch had lost her magic broom. She searched and searched around all day long in every place the broom could not be found. But Blue Witch was forgetful, that's what everybody said. So off to ask a friend for help, two little witches sped. We can't find a spell book and a broom. Do you know what we should do? I don't think I can help you because I've lost something too. Green Witch had lost her squiggly wand. She searched and searched around. All day long in every place the wand could not be found. But Green Witch was dizzy, that's what everybody said. So off to ask a friend for help, three little witches sped. We can't find a spell book, a broom, and a wand. Do you know what we should do? I don't think I can help you because I've lost something too. Yellow Witch lost her pointed hat. She searched and searched around all day long in every place. The hat could not be found. But Yellow Witch was muddled. That's what everybody said. So off to ask a friend for help, four little witches sped. We can't find a spell book, a broom, a wand, and a hat. Do you know what we should do? I don't think I can help you because I've lost something too. And that's the way it goes on with each time. And when I read it, the children love to try and remember in order all the things. And by the time we get to the ninth witch, it takes a bit of doing, but they usually do. They usually remember all the things that the witches have lost and enjoy being able to identify them.
Amazing. So we've got a couple of fan questions already, so I'm just going to ask them first. So from Mintos, we've got, has the book been a financial success?
Yes. Sorry. Well, I reckoned it's a financial success if I cover if I covered the outlay initially, but no, because it went into reprint, and now yes, it has been financially successful. I'm not J.K. Rowling, but it's successful.
Right. And Wendy H. Jones asks, where did the idea for Tartan Witch come from?
Well, I was speaking to a neighbour, in fact, and she was asking about Witch Hitch, and I was telling her how successful it had been, and she works in Glasgow at the Mitchell Gallery, and the Mitchell was putting on a tartan exhibition at that time. And I said to her, I know I want to do something with these witches, do something else because they're so popular. I said, I think we'll maybe have a tartan witch. And that's how Tartan Witch came about, as simple as that, just talking to somebody over the gate.
It's easily done. I think there's a load of questions asking, why did you change from children's authors to crime authors and vice versa? And it's very interesting to find out, I mean, I think in every genre there is, they're obviously the ones that stick in the genre and they know it, but obviously, if you, as a writer, and you kind of feel that, you've had your fill of the crime writing and you want to move off into something else, you should be able to do that with the success, I think, because, I mean, you're a writer, you're not pigeonholed and shouldn't be pigeonholed into certain, categories. So actually, I've just noticed my question that I was going to ask, and Wendy's actually taken that was one of my questions. So thank you, Wendy.
I could also say that at that time, the Scottish Executive was really focusing on Scots language in schools, and I thought this is a good time to do this. I could see a wee marketing opportunity here, whereby I was introducing Scots language to the children in a fun way, and hope that they would engage with that, and they did, which is super.
So the rest of the intro, so the Woon the Wildwoods followed and was taken as a teaching resource by Outdoor Education. The Witches has been so popular, she wanted to write another story about them. So the Scottish Exec was promoting Scots language, hence the Tartan Witch was written. Then it was How the Pirates Turned the Tide was published next, and this too was taken by Outdoor Education for a teaching resource. Following on from Tartan Witch, the new book emerged. Greta has won poetry competitions and has many of her poems published, and having won Ayr Writers Club Children's Competition, first 1,000 words of a novel, few years ago. She has finally finished the novel during this lockdown period, which sounds really interesting, and I might ask you a few questions about that. So there are obviously many interesting characters, not just the Tartan Witch, that are in your books. Do you have a particular favourite one that you've written about?
I think it's strange, but I think it's true that maybe your last one is always going to be your favourite at that time. But no, the pirate story is all about a feisty gran, and I keep telling my eldest grandson that he's got quite a feisty gran, and he just rolls his eyes because this gran in this story she's just unbelievable. I think she's just a character who's frightened of no one, and she rides a scooter, which this gran does. This gran wasn't allowed a scooter when she was 16, but when she was 60, she got a scooter. So she's a feisty character, and I like her. But no, I think Tartan Witch probably wins it. I think she does.
Yeah, she is such an interesting character. For somebody that obviously is Scots, but showing it to like family members who are not Scots, who are even English isn't their first language. Children are like they pick up things and they're curious to say what that word means, and then you can obviously have conversations about these kind of things. And say, well, this is Scottish, Scots language. Oh, I didn't know that. It's the same with everything. You might watch like old Take the High Road when that's all been promoted, Taggart, with all the different accents, and people are really interested in that, and they're like, oh, I say so. In fact, we might say I to yes, and people are like, why do you do that? And it's like, well, it's a regional language thing. So it starts a conversation going, about these kind of things. I was keeping on with the conversation. It was Tartan Witch. You obviously were just talking about yourself and like the granny, but was any of the books based on like real people that you just thought, oh, I love like their characterizations, I need to put them into a book? Or did you just say, no, I'll just kind of make up these characters because people in small towns can go, that's me, that's definitely me, like family members,
Yes.
she's definitely based that on me, kind of thing?
No, they're definitely all fictional, but friends have said that they can relate to some of the witches because these colourful witches all have their own personalities, and I think most people can identify with some of them. They've got, it's amazing how the characters of all the witches have developed as the books have developed, the characters have developed. And there might well be more witch stories to come.
Interesting. Definitely one of those things that you should go out and buy, or even look on Amazon, just for a wee gift for your child, because it's great to get children engaging children into reading just now when things because it helps their imagination, it helps numbers, it helps their language develop, and also just it gives you and your child something to like a hobby. Me myself, I was lucky my gran loved to read books since I was with my auntie. So my gran always took me to she's always passed away now, but she used to take me to the library, and I love it. Libraries and bookshops are my second home, basically. So do you have any what was your favourite scene in any of your books to write? We'll start with the Tartan Witch. Was there any scene that you wrote that you were like, wow, this kind of like resonate with kids, or you enjoyed writing it because it was kind of like something that you wanted to write about? Or
In Tartan Witch, no, probably her journey, because anything that could probably go wrong with Tartan Witch goes wrong, and that tends to echo my life sometimes too. But you think it couldn't possibly happen, but it does. And in there's definitely a bit in the new story, but I'm only not going to read the whole of the new story. And my favourite bit in that, as they say, you'll have to buy the book because it'll be evident. I think it's at the end, towards the end of the book, and that's my favourite bit of the book. But it's a bit of a reveal, so I'm not going to tell.
There you go. That's killer suspense to buy the book.
Absolutely.
So we've got here. So this is the link down below there for you to go on Amazon to have a look at the Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade. And then if you want to have a look at the other ones, you've got Greta's website, and I'll put a link into the comments for everybody just to click on in a second. I was just going to ask about why did you then decide to go into writing The Woo in the Woods? First of all, what was the inspiration behind that book?
Well, an author here. I've decided that I am an author. These stories just come to you. And before I had the story, I had the name The Woo in the Wildwoods, and The Woo in the Wildwoods came to me, and I had no idea what I was going to do with that. And the story went on, and it developed as the story went on, which is going back to you talking about the novel that I have just finished. It's been like that too. You go on and not really knowing, having an idea of where it's going, but getting a surprise really that things turned out the way they do. And it was the same with The Woo in the Wildwoods. It just came to me. I thought, oh, that's a great name, that, The Woo in the Wildwoods. I wonder what The Woo in the Wildwoods could possibly be. So it found me.
Wow. And what about the pirates? So was the pirates to do with the fact that the Tartan Witch was obviously more girly, and the pirate was like to compensate for like for young little boys sort of thing, or was there a completely different like a completely different idea for the pirate book?
No, I think the pirate book started off in one of the anthologies with Literate, and it started off being called But Not My Gran, because, as I say, this Gran does things, she's just fearless. And when all this plastic pollution and all that came so into focus, I thought teaching again. I thought I have to tell children about plastic pollution. So that was added into the original story, whereby the pirates and the child in the pirate story is specifically never mentioned as a girl or a boy, and looks like it could be either a girl or a boy. So I reckon that girls and boys could relate to it equally. But it deals with plastic pollution, sustainability, recycling. It does all these things because these pirates really do turn the tide. They turn themselves around, but only because Gran sorted them out. Gran went in and sorted the pirates out. Yeah.
Talking about the new book, can you give us some ideas and inspirations and to write it? Not giving away any spoilers, but any of the sort of like your maybe first idea for it, for the adventure for Tartan Witch.
Well, I was going to read a wee bit of Tartan Witch, because in Tartan Witch comes to visit the witches. So I thought it would be fun. The next book would be the witches returning and going to visit Tartan Witch in her croft in the Highlands, and things that could maybe happen when they went there. So it was a kind of a return visit, because, as I say, she is so popular, and people would say, is there going to be another Tartan Witch story? So here it is.
So, sorry. I'm just actually going to ask you if you'd like to read a wee bit from Tartan Witch, but I'll give a wee bit of an introduction. So the witches are all dreading Tartan Witch's visit because they don't understand what she says. Can they solve this problem? Follow their story as Tartan Witch tells the witches what had been happening to her. Told in Scots and English, this is a funny story which promotes the Scots language. Children enjoy the story and the lovely illustrations, which is actually right, because Greta came to Fife College last year when I was doing my events assessment, a group assessment, and we had local kids, from Kirkcaldy and Glenrothes and all that came along, and Dunfermline as well, and they had a ball with Greta, and there was other authors here as well, but all the kids absolutely, the imagination ran wild basically.
That's good. That's what we want. Well, the witches are I'll read the beginning of it. The witches were sitting about looking really glum. It was always the same at this time of year. Tartan Witch was due to visit. It wasn't that they didn't like Tartan Witch. She seemed really good fun, but they just couldn't understand a word she said. Instead of sitting about moping, why don't we do something about it, said Red Witch. We could fly away, said Pink Witch. Or we could make a spell to turn her words into words we understand, said Purple Witch. Now that is a good idea, said Blue Witch. I think we could manage that. So here we've got the Scots and the English starting here. They gathered the things that they thought they would need. Down of thistle, essence of haggis, scale of monster, flake of porridge, thorn of rose, hair of bulldog, and tooth of lion. Now, when I usually read this to children, I've usually got somebody with me, and I read the Scots and they read the English, so I'm going to do both here. With lots of zaps and whooshes, the spell was just ready when Tartan Witch barged through the door and flopped onto Pink Witch's couch. What a time I've had, I'm fair puggled out, she gasped. What a time I've had, I'm absolutely shattered. It all started last night when I was having my tea. It all started last night when I was having my dinner. I'd cooked a braw wee haddie. I'd cooked a nice piece of haddock, and I was just about to hae it when yon glaikit Doug frae next door came in with a simmet and a pair of breeks in its mouth. I had cooked a nice piece of haddock, and I was just about to have it when that stupid dog from next door came in with a vest and knickers in its mouth. The children loved that bit. The idiot had pooed them off my washing line. The silly thing had pulled them off my washing line. I hunted the duck, I chased the dog, steeped the clays, soaked the clothes. When I came back to the table, my cat had run off on my haddie. I was fair skinner, I can tell you. And when I came back to my table, the cat had run off with my haddock. I was really fed up, I can tell you. Anyway, I was just spreading a jelly piece instead. Anyway, I was just spreading a jam sandwich instead, when there was a richt stooshy, when there was a terrible commotion, and a muckle corby fell down the lum, and an enormous crow fell down the chimney. That's Tartan Witch.
So, obviously, these books were taken on by like the outdoor education as a resource. Were you quite shocked by that, or did you expect? Obviously, with being a teacher, you obviously know that a lot of books are used as education resources, and they always look towards like new books because kids nowadays, they need stimulation, and once they kind of finish a series, I know myself, once you kind of finish the series, you're kind of like, oh right, you kind of like waiting for a new one. So at that point, or they get scunnered with reading the same story. Was that quite shocking, or did you expect to find out that they were going to be used as educational resources?
No, actually, I was surprised, absolutely, yes, because it just so happened that it was The Woo in the Wildwoods that was first taken, and I gave a copy of that to a friend who works in outdoor education, and I just gave it as a gift, and she came back to me sometime later and said, could we use that? So when the pirates came out, there was so much in that could be used for all sorts of lessons, outdoor lessons. She took that as well, and I enjoyed. I worked with the team to compile the lesson plans for all the for the both books, and to compile resources and resource boxes for that, and that was really good fun. But no, I was surprised and delighted when they took that on board. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of going to go because we've got good questions coming in. So I think it's Mintos is asking who stocks the books, and I'm assuming she means all of your books, or because she hasn't specifically said Tartan Witch.
No, well, the books are on Amazon, and places like Visit Scotland has them. The Parliament shop has them. Independent bookshops. Print Point at Rossi's, she has my books. There's as I say, independent bookshops from Orkney, and a great resource has been Dumfries House in Cumnock, where Prince Charles's place at Cumnock, they stock the book. But that's probably, as I say, independent. So if I can find independent bookshops that want to stock the books, sometimes I have done readings for W.H. Smith, and they take books, and also Watterson's have taken books, but just at events and sold them. They don't actually have them on sale unless there's an event on at the time.
So I've got another question here from Linda Brown, and she's asking, where is the furthest Tartan Witch has travelled or been sold?
Oh my goodness, well, Tartan Witch went to the Tartan Day Parade in New York 2 years ago, and we had great fun there. We had a character, a friend, dressed up like Tartan Witch, and we went on the parade with a banner and up 6th Avenue. So Tartan Witch has been around. She's in Australia. She's all around the world, in fact, it's fantastic. But through going to Tartan Week, I liaise now with the Alexander Robertson School in New York, and I've been to visit them a couple of times to read there, and so she's getting around.
Wow. With Tartan Witch, if you could have Tartan Witch meet any literature character from any novel, who would you choose and why?
Tartan Witch, that's a question and a half. Who would I like Tartan Witch to meet? Probably Rabbie Burns. I think she would get on very well with Rabbie Burns. And he's not a literary character, but he's the person that I think she would really get on with. But a literary character? Wait till I think. Harry Potter.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
she could educate him in his Scots language.
Yeah, definitely. So well, let's talk about the next book that you're writing. So is that aimed at, because you said it's a novel, so I'm assuming that's without the illustrations and more sort of like more like a children's like books, maybe like for a wee bit of older age. So
it is, yes.
A bit about that.
Yes, it's a journey. It's a journey by probably a 14-and-a-half-year-old boy, whereby he sets out on a journey and finds out lots of things about himself. It all takes place at Halloween, and I'll tell you the start of the story. He's living with his mother and siblings and stepfather, and the whole world's against him. This poor character, the whole world is against him, and he's grounded, but his mother asks him if he'll take the two younger ones out guising for Halloween, and he grudgingly does this, and in the process of them being out guising, he loses the children, and that's where the journey begins for him, because he doesn't really like these children to begin with. He finds them annoying, but he finds out, he meets different characters on this journey, and he learns a lot about himself. And the message, the main message through that story is that you have to talk. You have to talk, because there's such an emphasis just now on young men in particular who have issues and just don't talk. And so the message hopefully will get to, this is probably for 8 to 12-year-olds. The message through this should be that you have to talk about things. So there's a message in there again. You see, I can't stop teaching. There's a message.
Yeah. So, is there? Have you got any plans to go to expand the pirate series, or is the pirate and the Woo just like one-offs that you wrote, or have you got more Tartan witch books in the?
Well, I think with the pirate one, it would be the Gran. It would be the feisty Gran that would probably maybe have another adventure. But no, I haven't thought, honestly, having just finished that novel, I haven't much thought about Queerdom, but I have a really dark novel in the back of my mind that I frighten myself sometimes when I think about what I want the character to do. So, and it is a crime, but whether that will ever see the light of day is another story. But like you said, with Literate, we have a book that's called that are dark tales, and some of the things in there are quite dark that I managed to write for that. So I think I could do either.
Wow.
Wow.
Moving into the crime genre. I think a lot of authors do. Well, I personally know they're kids authors and they're crime authors, and you're like, everybody's like, how can they be both? And you're like, they can, because I think 2 weeks ago we had our panel on Saturday morning, and it was talking animals, teen and kids detectives, and it was Wendy Jones and it was Lynn Anderson, and obviously Lynn's books now, Blaze the dog detective and Wendy's the two teenagers. So you can do it in a way that doesn't like a crime can be committed, that children can like investigate, like a mystery. Like think about the famous five and all the mysteries they had. You can obviously do it. Doesn't have to involve dead bodies and things like that, and do it and like twist it to suit like a younger audience. And it's niches as well, because there are so many police procedurals out there that you need to find a new and interesting way, and it also engages children to pick up a book that they might not think about reading. I mean, a lot of people are like shocked at me. I mean, I'm known as a crime novel blogger, and obviously I've also got friends that have like obviously from different genres that we've met, and then a lot of people don't realise when I grew up, I collected The Babysitters Club, Anne Martin's. It's on Netflix now. That was my book, Sweet Valley High, that kind of thing. So obviously, as you grow up, your book like tastes change. But obviously, I mean, I still go back to some like the classics. And some read them. I've got some music biographies. I've got some like the Game of Thrones, just because you have to have it. The Margaret Atwood, because obviously, you know, the Handmaid's Tale, because it's very relevant to what we find ourselves facing, kind of thing. But yeah, you know, it's all about like sort of like finding a niche and writing about it. And I look forward to read. I just like to read basically now. I have my note. I was known as a bookworm at school. I just like to have my nose in a book, because that's when things are rotten, you can just take your stuff away, and you just find that you don't think about what's going on and things like that. That's been a great help for like stress and stuff like college. I would take myself out and I would read a book at lunchtime, because it would be me time, not any of this like sort of well-being and well health and mind. I just read a book. Listen to music, read a book. That's my stressor, and it works.
It's great to get lost in a book. It absolutely is.
So I've got Cecilia Orak, I'm hoping I'm saying her surname right. She's asking, what's your favourite character in The Witch Hitch, or the witch you can relate to most?
The witch I can relate to most.
She's saying Sissy, so I don't know if that's maybe your sister or something.
No.
She's got, what's your favourite character in The Witch Hitch, or the witch you can relate to most to, and it says Sissy, so I don't know, is that your sister?
It's Sissy. No, I know who this is though.
All right, okay.
I like to think I relate best to Red Witch, who's very sensible, but part of me definitely is Pink Witch, who's a bit dippy. So I don't know. I'm definitely not Grey Witch, because she's an old granny, and I'm definitely not that. So I would say a combination of Red Witch and Pink Witch.
Definitely. I'm not going to, because that's it. That must be the question. Well, who do you relate to the most? You're like, That is an interesting question.
Yes.
So Elizabeth Mackay said, "How do you see the future for children's books? Do you think lockdown has had an effect?"
Well, it definitely hasn't had an effect because we can't be out there doing readings and things and relating to children, and we definitely are missing out in that. But it's great. Modern technology is wonderful, and if we can get children's stories out there through a through online events, that'll be super. But I mean, the children are missing libraries and everything, and I know how important libraries are for children and encouraging them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I
But
think it's been hard for us all.
yeah,
Just not getting the chance to. I mean, I was joking there about getting a chance to read, and my TBR pile has gone down because like every day at lunchtime I have my lunch, I read my Kindle. So I am getting the books I get sent are going down, but I do miss going to the library, because
absolutely.
you're not allowed to. Well, five. Well, one reason me is five. They are open on just hours, but you don't want to browse them. You don't want to touch
No.
them
Mm-hmm.
because because you now feel like there's 100 pair of eyes staring at you. And you're just like, okay, maybe I won't go in. Now it's just a case of, just I've still got one book that, and it's desperate to get it. I won't be browsing it, backing out basically.
Yeah.
Whereas I could have gone to like Person D, gone with us and spent like an hour in the library just browsing and just looking at the newest books and things like that.
Yeah.
Because it's really really hard. So and as you say, lockdown as well. I mean, getting kids, out and about and learning to read and stuff like that. I mean, I've not got my rainbows and I miss them. I mean, an hour on a Friday night and they're screaming after school and they're like waving their arms about, running about for an hour,
Yeah.
and then you have them and you kind of do miss seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is hard because that's another, if they come from difficult backgrounds, it's an hour that the parents might get to relax, it's an hour that the kids get to see their friends. 'Cause obviously we have some girls, because Newborough and Dunbog, so we have some girls in Newborough Primary School and some from Dunbog Primary School, which is the local, they're like the smaller primary school. Newborough is where I live and it's got the bigger one, but there's Dunbog with the local smaller communities, Aberdeen, Dunbog, and all that between Cooper. And it's great that the kids can, because the next time they're all going to meet is like Bill Baxter at the high school. So the more interactions kids can get,
Mm-hmm.
coming from smaller schools, the smaller community school, village schools, they get to meet like more people. The thing is, I mean, it's great. All the kids coming together, and we've had the kids from the private schools, kids at homeschooled, and it's just great for them because they get that 1 hour to meet up with all their friends, and you hear them talking about, oh, we're going to do this in holidays, we're all going to get together, we'll have sleepovers,
Mm-hmm.
go to each other's houses, play with each other. It's great, and just lockdown. I think it's been hard just for small kids to understand why is
What's
this
happening? Mm-hmm.
why can't I see like my next door neighbour? Why can't I play with my best friend? Sort of kind of thing. And your heart just goes out to them because how do you explain what's going on when we really don't know ourselves what's happening? Um,
That's
and
true.
then and it's hard. And also book launches and things like that. You just
Oh
reading
no,
is
it's touching the physical book too. I mean, that's just such a problem now. So
yeah. But so do you have any words of wisdom that you could give, like people that maybe think of writing a novel? Because a lot of people do think write a book, you've got to write a novel, like a 300, 400 pound, 400 word novel. Whereas you don't really to be an author, you can write a children's book. I mean, there was like Julia Donaldson, well, she made her fame writing children's novels, which illustrating and writing kids books, which that, and she's classed as a very successful children's author. So you don't have to write the big next Booker Prize. You can write a children's novel and still be thought of as a writer.
that's true. That's true. It would be really nice to do. It would be really nice if the one and only novel turned out to be like To Kill a Mockingbird, and you only had to do one novel to be so successful. that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Words of wisdom: if you're wanting to write and don't stop, and carry a notebook with you. If you have a wonderful idea, jot it down. And definitely, as I say, the advice that I got: join a writers' club, because you get great support and encouragement within writers' clubs.
So, do you go to? So, can you talk about the writers' clubs, because that's something that I've noticed a lot more. A lot of authors now are coming on and saying, "Oh, we joined a local writers' club. We were part of a group." And you obviously see it now, like the Dundee University has like Sandra Ireland and all that do like courses in that, and that's something that I've even noticed coming up on my Google feed, Google email a lot. You know, would you like to join a writers' club? And you're like, oh. You know, you hear everybody now talking about it, and I just wondered if you can maybe talk a wee bit about your journey with them.
Well, Air Writers is a very successful writers' club with lots of talented members, and we meet every week, and all genres are covered throughout the year, whereby we have speakers, and then we have workshop nights, and we also have feedback nights, which are very good. So members come with a written piece, and we sit in groups, and within the groups we read the work, which is anonymous at the time, and we give feedback, which is very valuable. It's wonderful. That's good. And we're encouraged, as I say, to enter the Scottish Association of Writers competitions. But the club nights are really good nights. So it's either going to be a speaker who comes, and we sit and listen and take advice and ask questions, or we have somebody come in to do a workshop, and we can have a poetry workshop, a fiction workshop, flash fiction workshop, a book review workshop, all these kind of things, and drama. We do workshops in all these different genres throughout the year. And then in the summer, as if that's not good enough, in the summer when we're not meeting, we have summer read-arounds whereby members host the evening at their homes. This year it's been on Zoom, but and we go along and we read what we've written and get feedback at that. So it's the writing and the getting the feedback that's really, really important.
That's brilliant. It really is quite interesting, because I mean, to have that support network, you know, of building people that are there to help you to read your books, and you're not feeling like you're on your own, kind of thing. Can you talk a little bit about self-publishing, because that's another one that I've noticed that people are quite interested in now. If they don't obviously pick up, you know, like a publisher or an agent straight away, they go into self-publishing. Can you tell us a little bit how you went about doing that? Because that's quite an interesting one as well, because a lot of people think you need to get the big publishers behind you, but a lot now success stories have come off of like selling them on Amazon, and then obviously they've been turned down. They've decided, all right, I'm going to go and put it on Amazon myself and self-publish, and then they've picked up the big publishing companies like Penguins and things like that. And how did you go about it?
Well, I think I covered that earlier by telling you how we went about it, but I think the answer probably, because as you know, some stuff that's self-published is not maybe up to very much of a standard, and anyone could self-publish anything, I suppose. I think it's good, going back to the Writers' Club again, to be able to get feedback and bounce it off people that you respect their views before you would think about self-publishing or doing anything like that. I just wouldn't write a story and publish it. I would want some kind of feedback from people that I respect, get it proofread, and get feedback from people before you actually try and launch it, but then you would just have to, I don't know, you would put it on Amazon, you can, or get it printed and do find outlets for it and bookshops that are willing to take it on. But get some feedback first, I would say.
Definitely wise advice there, Greta. Would you like to read from your new book? Because I think everybody's excited to hear from the newest book. So I've got, here is the third book in the Witch series, Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade. This story is also told in Scots and English. The witches travel to Tartan Witches Croft in the Scottish Highlands for a holiday they'll not forget.
Right. I'll let you see some of the lovely illustrations in this one too. Oh, here they are again. We're looking glum this time. The witches were complaining about the weather when Tartan Witch's phone pinged. It's a message from Tartan Witch, she announced. Oh, we'll need our Scots translate to English spell again, said Green Witch. Spell cast, Purple Witch read on. Instead of me trifling down to bide by you and all the undreich weather you're haying, what for no ye flit to the croft up here and bide with me? The weather's braw and there's a wheen of things to do. Instead of me trailing down to stay with you and all that awful weather you're having, why don't you all come up to the croft and stay with me? The weather is great and there's lots to do. Well, this one here first. They didn't have to be told twice. Off the cat. And the cats went into the cattery. The sign said a stimulating experience was advertised by the cattery, but the cats had other ideas. They weren't having that nonsense. We'd better have more of that spell, said Purple Witch as another message arrived. I'm glad you're giving your besoms a rest. I've read up and done a wall with all the story about the house. I can't wait to see you. I'm glad you're giving your brooms a rest. I've cleared up and I'm getting rid of all the dust in the house. The witches are on the train. I can't wait to see you. When the witches finally arrived, Tartan Witch ran out to greet them. I kent my neighbour joke would get you here. I'll bet you had a sugary wee hurl, eh? Laughed Tartan Witch. Come ben the hoose. I've made haggis and neeps and tatties for your tea, gluty dumpling and bannocks with cheese for afters. I knew my neighbour John would get you here. I bet it was a bumpy little ride, eh? Come in the house. I've made you haggis with turnip and potatoes for your tea, steamed pudding and oatcakes and cheese for afterwards. And Pink Witch says, do you think we'll see Nessie? Oh, don't be so silly, said Red Witch. After porridge breakfast, Tartan Witch suggested, maybe you'll give me a wee holiday. Maybe you'll give me a little help today. The byre wants mucking out, eggs wants gathered, and the hen house wants redd up. The cowshed needs cleaning out, eggs have to be gathered, and the hen house tidied. No to mention milking the gate, giving the coo its mate, and the hinny wants lifting for by. Nary your canterups now, you're in your holidays, and nobody here kens about my poors. So, not to mention milking the goat, feeding the cows, and the honey needs collecting as well. None of your magic, remember. You're on holiday, and nobody here knows about my powers. That evening, Tartan Witch told the witches about all the things she did to earn money. A day afternoon teas with her visitors, I gave her bremmels and cross apples, and hairst and make jelly. I put honey in jars and all. I make bannocks on my girdle and crowdy for the gate's milk. I'm aye thrang, but the morra will hae a day off. I make afternoon teas for tourists. I gather blackberries and crab apples in the autumn and make jelly. I put honey into jars too. I make oat cakes on my girdle and cheese from the goat's milk. I'm always busy, but tomorrow we'll have a day off. The next day, Tartan Witch took her visitors for a picnic, and they go to the Cairngorm National Park. We'll have a great time in here with all yon creatures running and fleeing always. We'll have a great time in here with all these creatures running about. They certainly saw many of the creatures. I can fairly see, you can fairly see many creatures, and I ken where there's a Highland Games soon the morra, said Tartan Witch. You can certainly see many of the creatures. I know where there's a Highland Games soon nearby, Tartan Witch announced. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you.
Wow, so
they go to the games. They go to the games next, the Highland Games. It's all about Scottish culture. They go to the Highland Games, and there's a ceilidh at night, and it's introducing not just the Scots language, but Scottish culture as well.
Yeah, because there is obviously preconceived notions of what Scottish culture actually is, and I've known a lot of people that have come from America and expected Scotland to be the Highland, Heather, Haggis, Tartan sort of thing. There is, but it's not what they expected. I did Scottish tourism at school, and there was a story that a film crew had come over from America, and they had this. They were shooting a film about like Scottish history or something like that, and they had this preconceived notion of what the Scotland was like. They'd be like everybody would have red hair. They'd all be in tartan. They'd all be speaking Gaelic. They'd all be running about chasing haggis about the place. And when they got here, they didn't get that at all anywhere. So they actually went all the way back to America, and they made their version of Scotland in America in some studio because they couldn't find it in Scotland because it doesn't really exist. And I have red hair, and I do like haggis, and I do wear tartan sometimes.
Yes, sometimes,
but,
yes.
Yes, but it's not all the time. And we've joked with friends when they've come over, and they've said, "Oh, we've gone, there's a Highland cow," and we've got, "Where's the haggis?" And we've gone, they're over there, and they're going, "That's sheep." We're going, "No," and they're going, "Sheep, that's sheep, that's not haggis." And we're going, "Yes." And they're shaking their heads, and we're going, "Do you want to really know what haggis is?" And they're like, "They're animals, they run out." We're like, "No, that actually sheep stomachs." We're like, "Oh," and we're like, "Yep."
And all these other bits, yes.
Yeah, because people just assume because like Highland cows, sheep, they expect them to be an animal because in some, like, they have been made to look like animals, so they've been made to have like legs and stuff like that on them and run about in some. I don't know where it was I saw them, and the haggis looked. I think it was maybe an ornament a friend had bought me, and it looked like a character, but it's not.
No.
What about? I'm trying to glamorise it, but I don't know if that works or not, because then people do see like Nessie. There's obviously people think Nessie's real, or Nessie's a tourist attraction, and it's kind of like locals probably think it's a great way of bringing people to Loch Ness, but
yes,
it's that Scotland's full of. I mean, I'm not telling you don't come to Scotland. I'm saying yes, come once the pandemic's over. Please come, because that it's so interesting, and it's great to like for kids, because their imagination is like full of things. I mean, look at like Scots language and Gaelic language. I mean, that nearly pretty much died out, and if it weren't for like bands like that kept the Gaelic language going, and then like the Scots language as well in like traditional singing, we probably would find that we were like a lot of countries, our native tongues would be like, for the older generation, or the people that lived say like in Lewis and stuff like that obviously spoke it as a first language. But it's great that we can have books like that make kids look at it and go, "Wow, what's that?" And then that sort of like will take an interest, and they might just decide that maybe they want to find it more, or they might ask their parents, and then that kind of a love that can lead like a lot of Scottish language can lead to like wanting to read like Rabbie Burns poems.
That's
and
right.
like that. And that's great about Scotland. We obviously have such a strong national identity. It's about keeping it and encouraging the younger generations to to know about their heritage and their history, because
It is. It's their heritage, and it's important that they know it. Absolutely.
yeah. So I've got another question here from Cecilia, and it's just, where do you see yourself as a writer in 5 years' time?
Oh my goodness. Well, somebody will have bought the film rights for Tartan Witch, and I'll be retired somewhere very warm and sunny, hopefully.
Definitely.
Yes. I don't know. I would like to think that my novel is published one way or another, and I hope that it is successful. That's the aspiration of the moment, I suppose.
Yes. Back to this beautiful drawing. Sorry, back to the beautiful drawings that you just showed there from. So I assume that you're not the illustrator as well, because I do know there's some people that are the illustrator and the writer, but I'm assuming from what you sent me, you have an illustrator that does those drawings for you.
Yes, Maggie. And the ideal would be definitely for it would be to illustrate your own stories. It's wonderful. And with the first book, Maggie and I, when she did the drawings and the pictures were just exactly as I imagined the witches would look like, wonderful. And the woo too, but my goodness, when it came to Tartan Witch, I started saying, and I'm quite sure if you handed your book to a publisher, they would just have an illustrator and that would be it. You would step back. Poor Maggie was a good Scots word, I'm sure. Peerie heeded with me because I was telling her all the fine detail that I would want in these pictures. Um, and so, and as well with the pirates, I was very, very, very precise about what I wanted in the pictures, and I thought that was bad enough, but I've been even worse this time with Tartan Witch because there's so much that I wanted put in within, not actually told in the story, but within the drawings and the illustrations, and that's what's so good about this book. I think that there's so much to talk about in the drawings. But that is an art on its own. It would be ideal to. Maggie does actually. She writes and illustrates her own stories, which is a great way to be.
Oh,
Great talent to
definitely.
have.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the competition to win a copy of Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade. So Greta has set some questions for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to on the banner it's going to come up. Just because I don't want to mispronounce words, and just in case you mishear something or don't pick it up, and it'll be just running along the bottom there. But Greta's going to set the question. So it's 3 questions, and if you just put them in the comments bar here, and then obviously the person that gets all 3 questions right will win the book. If more than one person gets it right, we'll put it in the I'll put it in. I'll go and grab a hat and I'll put it in, and then
Yes,
my mum's actually in the living room. I'll ask her to pull it out so
she
that
can
I
be the
can see it.
judge.
Exactly, definitely. So the first, I'll just find it. So the first question is this one, and I'll
The
just let
first question is, what do you do? What would you do with a ball bee? A, eat it. B, play it. C, wear it. Or D, spend it. And the second question is, where would you find the statue of Lobie Dosser? A, Perth. B, Dundee. C, Glasgow. Or D, Aberdeen. And the last one, which of these authors is not Scots? A, J.M. Barrie. B, John Buchan. C, Kate Atkinson. Or D, Irvine Welsh.
Okay, so what I'm just going to do is just going to go back to the question there. So the first one was what would you do with a bobby? And it's A, eat it, B, play it, C, wear it, D, spend it. The next question was asked was, where is the statue of Lobby Dosser. It's A, Perth, B, Dundee, C, Glasgow, D, Aberdeen, sorry. And then the last question was, which author is not Scots? A, J.M. Barrie, B, John Buchan, C, Kate Atkinson, or D, Irvine Welsh. So I'm just gonna... so we've got some answers coming up. So there's the 3 questions if you want to win the copy of Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade, which is an absolutely brilliant book. We'll just ask sort of like questions while people are coming up with the answers. I mean, obviously, if you want to like have a look at Greta's other books, you can go to our website at it's down the bottom down here. So I'll take that one off. So it's Greta's website is just running along the bottom there, and I've added a link to into the comments there for you to click on and have a look. And then obviously, if you just want to buy a copy of Tartan Witch, that's the link, Amazon link for you as well. And obviously, if you put Greta's name into Amazon, you will find the other books to buy as well. I don't think you have an Amazon author page. I did have a wee look, but I couldn't find it. They did come up with a page, but it's not a Amazon author page. It's just like the 4 books listed, I think, or something.
Yes.
But so back to the when you were a teacher, did you find that the kids, you know, did you test the books out on the first book? Did you test it out on your kids at the time when you were writing it, just to get their ideas? Because sometimes you find that kids, you can be quite not cheeky with it, but they have great ideas. You know, they listen to something and they like shaking their head, go, no. Did you use that, or did you just kind of go from like sort of how you thought a child would engage with this book?
I definitely tried it out with them, but I had more or less finished it when I did that. And it was just a document that I read. They had no pictures or anything, no, at that point, because it was just a text document. But I read it to them, and they quickly joined it. That was the magic of that story, because the children join in because they kind of know they join in the rhythm of the rhyme. And although they don't know what the next witch is going to be, but they do now, because I bring the witches with me when I go to schools. They know that they know the repeated bit of the rhyme, and they join in, and they love to do that. They love to join in, and they also loved the success of remembering the lost objects. So yes, I tried it out on the children. And I do school visits, and I particularly nursery visits with Witch Hitch. And now I take the witches and I display the witches, and the children love to see the witches, the actual knitted dolls. So they come out too. Yes, you need feedback always. And when I started writing the novel, I went out to a local school and I would read a chapter or two to them. This is to the 10, 11-year-olds. And they certainly gave feedback, which was valuable, really good. So that's getting feedback once more before you carry on. But they enjoyed it, and they told me what they liked about it. And 1 or 2 had wee criticisms, which were taken on board. It's good.
Brilliant. Could you see the witches that sort of like taking off? Would you ever think about taking another witch and maybe like doing like a book about the pink witch, or about a little book about the red witch, or would you just prefer to have them all together, kind of thing? Or is Tartan Witch like your main one, that having the witches come to see her or her come to see them, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think I would. I don't think I would do individual witches, because they come as a team. They come as a group. I don't think it would be right. I don't know, mind you. I don't think it would be right to focus on one of them, because I think their strong point is the fact that they are all so different, and they come together. See, there's another lesson in that. They are all different, and yet they come together into quite a formidable force. all with their own talents too. See, look, you've got me thinking now. You got me thinking now of another way to go. Yes. I have to say, now I have to tell you this. This is probably the biggest claim to fame that I think I'm going to have, in that Tartan Witch gets a mention in Carol Ramsey's latest book that's not out yet. So how about that?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
interesting. So how, just actually on the curiosity, how did you and Carol, like, because obviously Carol, if you don't know, is a crime author known for like gritty Glasgow police procedures and obviously standalones, and obviously Greta is a Scottish author, sort of Scottish children's author, and obviously, as I've just said, there are quite a few of them. There's Wendy and there's Lynn that obviously have been crime authors and that kind of moved into the children's, and there's obviously Pammy Bale as well, who's Pammy Bale's a children's author, and then she's was a crime author as Pamela St. Abbs. So how did you get involved with Carol? Because that's quite
Well, I was at a reader's day with Carol last year. Was it just last year? It was, where I was reading Tartan Witch, and that's really something twigged. It's just being in the right place at the right time. She heard Tartan Witch and she had a wee idea, something she could do with that.
wow.
Just a mention. It's just a mention, but wow, come on.
Exactly, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody saying, wow, Tartan Witch in a murder mystery. Yeah, I mean, as we were just saying previously, I mean, a murder mystery, but it doesn't have. Enid Blyton in The Famous Fighter, we just mentioned, I think, about half an hour ago, her books never featured a dead body or a grisly murder scene.
No.
They were about them finding a ring or finding, like a lost boat or an island or having an adventure that maybe like a mystery. There could be a murder mystery, and because something, well, things can happen and things like that, but they're not actually like your Grizzly Taggart murder mystery kind of thing. The kids aren't involved in like bloody murders basically, but I mean, it's that kind of thing that it does happen. It happens, kids could stumble across. I mean, where I live, we live in the Tay. People can stumble across, like people that maybe have jumped off. We have the Tay Bridge. We have the bridge at Perth. People will jump off it, and then obviously by the time it takes to travel down the Tay, people can be walking and finding like dead body. My dad actually found two, and he sails on the Tay to collect logs and stuff, and he's found two of them, and they've turned out to be people that maybe like gone missing and like ended up like collapsing or taken ill and fallen into the river and just been come down with the current basically. And it's that kind of thing. I mean, a few years ago we were actually, me and my auntie's dog that I look after, we were walking up so we live in Newbrough, we live at the back road from Muckday. So there's a long sort of walk with fields and things like that. And we were walking up and we got up to a place that we walked all the time. And we looked, I looked down, I don't know why he stopped, but we looked down and there was actually like a knife that was actually like stuck into the actual ground, and I was like, my heart was like going bum, 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 and I was like scared of my wits, thinking, what the hell? And then closer and closer you got, you realised it was like a plastic thing, like somebody maybe had it and thought it was funny just to chuck it down. But in actual fact, I thought, oh my god, am I going to have to like phone the police here, because there's this like clearly like knife sword thing sticking out the ground. So maybe it was like I think it was a retractable one, because closer you got, you realised it wasn't right. But you actually, the scariness of it, and you think, well, then days after it was like that, it was like your brain thinking that's a great starter for like a book, but it's not fake, it's real. And your mind starts to imagine the scenarios
Mm-hmm.
for a great storyline. And then people are like, wow, you should actually, like write these. And I'm thinking, yeah, just don't have the time. So I have great respect for people that can sit down and go, right, I'm going to start writing a book, and a murder book, or even a children's book. Because, I mean, as I said before, working with the kids is great because, you get kept in the loop with what's current for children. So you know that the dolls that are current and the TV shows that they all like to watch.
Yeah.
And all the movies that were out. I mean, it took me years to watch Frozen, but I did. But they kind of keep you young and keep you into the kind of what's in. I think there's a Wow Dolls or something that's come. And then my friend said that her little boy likes Bing Bunny, and she said he loves it. And I just thought, right, this was during lockdown. I thought, right, I'm going to have a look and see what this Bing Bunny is, because some of the kiddies ones, like it was like the night garden, and I was like, that's creepier than the Magic Roundabout as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely is, yes.
And then we had and then I was like, right, it's a bit strange because the wee characters look normal. Like the bunny Bing looks like a wee bunny. Then you look at the paint and it's like some sort of weird stick insect, like 2-dimensional stick insect bunny. And I'm like, Jesus, it's kind of weird. I mean, I don't know who thinks this is kids. He loves it.
He loves it, yeah.
Scary. I mean, I thought Sooty and Sweep was a bit risky and like the Get Along Gang. I mean, I'm sure my age now. I was born in '84, but I thought like things like that. That I thought the Get Along Gang was sometimes, and Sooty and Sweep was a bit, because you didn't know what was going to come out of those puppets' mouths sometimes. But of today's kiddies things, you're like the Teletubbies with my sister was. I think that was the start of it, when you thought, oh my god, this is getting like, it's like something from another planet. And then kids,
absolutely,
no kid is gonna want to watch that, but it takes off you, like it's like borderline, like
dearie me. The Night Garden's something else, though, isn't it? Really?
It is, yeah. I mean, some of them. I mean, imagine it roundabout was. It was of its time. It was like 70s, 80s, like psychedelic. Was it the 60s? That kind of, you knew where it came from, but then it still was. The characters were understandable, but this, like Butt and Moon, they were weird, but they were understandable.
Yes.
But now it's kind of like, okay. It's just weird. I'm now like, I'm so glad I grew up in the decades I grew up in, because I'm like, yeah, things are true. I mean, there's been great advances in like technology and things like that for children's movies and things like that. Like now they're not. Disney's now more like Toy Story is. They're like the great with the technology and like the characters move and things like that. Whereas before, you could tell that it was more staticky, sort of like drawing things. But now, but yeah, it's sometimes you're like, nah, good old fashioned is more understandable than some of the stuff that comes. Then you obviously got a lot of stuff comes from America, and a lot of stuff like weird and wonderful stuff comes from like Asia, and then you're like, wow. Technology can be great when it works.
As we know, yes.
As we have just, I would never have thought it was the earphones. That's the thing. I've never have thought of the earphones, because they do tell you that earphones, wear earphones because static, to stop the static. And we've had people wearing earphones at the Crime Book Festival, and it didn't seem. I had them on in the first one, but I was just like all day when I was like, no. But it never occurred to me that maybe that could cause the. So if you were watching from the start, really, really sorry about the.
I think it was my clever son-in-law that sussed the problem with the earphones. I think it was him.
So somebody's got a title. I think the Jewels, Thieves and Smugglers. Linda has said, yeah, that's the kind of thing. You can all crime doesn't have to be just a murder, but it's interesting the kind of situations you can put you can take children into without it being gory and grisly.
Yeah.
want to, but it is really interesting about putting kids into situations and, you know, the adventures that they can have, because at certain ages, you know, there are things that they can wander into that they maybe
Yes.
shouldn't wander into,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the adventures that can, and you can cross into genres like easily like that. I mean, young adult. I mean, some of the young adult books that have been done as young adult books, maybe like so you had Twilight, and then you
Uh-huh.
had one the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they kind of crossed genres because they were targeted as young adult, but there is a lot of adults that watch them and enjoy them
Absolutely.
at the time and think,
Mm-hmm.
well, they were actually, you know, they were maybe young adult books, but in the Vampire Diaries, but in actual fact, when they got made for TV and movies, well, they kind of crossed into more into the adult genre. Well, so like Twilight and all that was like the vampire and the Vampire Diaries into the sort of like that horror genre. Hunger Games kind of was like a dystopian. So you can see a way of taking a young adult book and making it older, and then making a children's book, or taking it back and making it, you know, vice versa. It could start off as young teens or make it kids, and then or it can resonate with adults as well. I mean, because you just, I suppose it depends who you cast as the characters and things like that.
Yes.
You know, that can decide. And then there are people that like those kind of like dystopian books, but don't really mind it going like kind of like sort of back into the teen sort of market. Maybe that's what the book started off with, but the way it's been written or being filmed or produced, it's like pushed it into another genre completely, which means that more people get to enjoy them, which is so much better because, you know, that's what books and TV shows, that's what's great. You know, if you're not a reader, well, then you can watch them on TV, and then you can maybe go, well, I actually might try and read them because, you know, the books maybe never as good as some cases. If you read the books, the TV shows and all that aren't ever as good because you have an idea yourself of what the characters look like.
Yeah.
Whereas also, and then vice versa, movies, and then you read the books and you think, oh, that's not as grisly, or that's not as. But I mean, if more people get to enjoy, like, say, like the books because they've watched the TV show and they want to find out about, that's all the better for encouraging people to read it, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm doing that just now with Vera because I watched Vera on television and now I'm reading the books. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
And
there's been a lot of people. When my mum and dad don't read at all, they're not big readers, but they love crime TV shows. So my blog, There's Been a Murder. Sorry, I'm just plugging this away. There's Been a Murder is a wee cheeky nod to them because they loved Taggart and watched it religiously when it was on Scottish television, but they don't read. So it's like bringing them into my world because There's Been a Murder was like the famous quote of the
yeah.
detective. So it's just Agatha Christie's Poirot. I mean, me myself, I'm the only one who's ever come close to is David Suchet. Suchet. I don't know how to pronounce his surname, but he's the only one who's ever come close to Poirot for me.
Mm-hmm.
But have you got an idea if Tartan Witch was to be made into a children's TV show? Do you think? Do you have any of the like children characters that you would love to see play, like Tartan Witch or Red Witch or Pink Witch?
Who would I like to see? Who? Actors? Yes, definitely Granny McPhee. I would go back to Emma Thompson again because I think she would be a super duper tartan witch.
Yeah.
She'd be my go-to person, or her sister Sophie Thompson. Either of these two, I think, would be really good at tartan witch. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, there you go. You know, you don't have to have a children's actor playing the part. You can have an
No.
adult actor playing the part.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, people would. all ages could enjoy it and sit down, and then they maybe could see, oh right, so it was such and such a rule set, it was a children's book, we'll have kids or grandchildren or nieces and nephews, or we'll get them the books and bring them into it. It's a great, literature is a great one. I think I've got two that have got the right answers here. So the answers, because we're at past now, so the answers were the questions banner. So the first one was, what would you do with a bobby? And it's eat it, play it, wear it, or spend it. And would you like to give us the answer, Greta?
You would spend it.
Spend it, yes.
Spend it.
It's a penny, I think.
Just a bobby, yeah.
And the next question was, where is the statue of Lobby Dosser?
It's in Glasgow.
It is. And do you want to tell us who Lobby Dosser is?
No.
People don't know.
He's just a poor character, I would imagine, who's and the statue just is there to represent a lot of the poor souls that you find in Glasgow, homeless people. But yes, I think that's the story there.
And the last one was, which author is not Scots? Jane Barry, John Buchan, Kate Atkinson, and Irvine Welsh.
And it's Kate Atkinson.
So I've got two people. So I've got Linda Brown, and I've got Marion Husband. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write Linda's name, and I'm going to write Marion's name on a bit of paper, and then I'm going to go and get my mum to pull it out of my hat. Okay. So unless I do, this is quickly going. Unless one.
Exciting times.
I've got two people. Hey, sorry about that, people. Just getting it so it's a wee bit fair. So the winner of the Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade book is Marion Husband. Well done, Marion. So if you get in touch with, I don't know, do you know Marion, Greta?
Yes, I can attend to that.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Sorry about the little bit of technical hitch this at the start there. Just things, the joys of doing things on technology just now. It's a fun ride. But thank you so much, Greta, for letting me organise this and obviously taking part and being able to launch your new book, the Tartan Witch and the Highland Escapade, which looks amazing. And so hopefully, everybody will go out and buy themselves a copy of it. We've got Christmas coming up, as seen on social media. We've got so many days to Christmas, and we don't know what's going to happen. So support your local authors.
COVID free, yes.
Exactly, definitely.
Thank you very much, Lindsay, for hosting this. It's been very good.
Not a problem. Oh, she's saying. Right. Linda saying Lobby Dosser was a cartoon character in a Glasgow newspaper. And Mary said, yeah, thank you. Greta, sorry, Linda. But I know I'm just reading the comments here. But thanks very much, guys. Hope you have a lovely rest of Sunday. Thank you very much. And we're just going to end the broadcast.